I'm a custom actions girl. You have to like flip that around, but yeah.
You're going to become the workflow queen.
Yes.
We'll see how committed you are when we give you a tattoo.
Welcome to Unjargoned, a podcast about healthcare workflows that make sense and without all the acronyms. We talk to people on the front lines of healthcare and explore cool workflows they're using to solve real problems. I'm Angie Shin, a product leader at Luma Health, and this is my co-host, Dave.
Hey, everybody, I'm Dave Smythe. I am a revenue leader here at Luma, also the resident type 1 diabetic and voted most likely to use offensive language in any situation. We're really, really excited to have Emily on. Emily, do you want to just take a quick minute and introduce yourself?
For her, Dave. You're not staying in your lane. I have
already
for her already.
Already
thrown off.
To balance out all the Dave who's not following the storyboard. Okay, today's guest is a true powerhouse. By day, she's driving innovation in healthcare, pushing boundaries of what's possible, and by weekend, she's tackling what I consider to be like super extreme sports, as we've covered with all of that wrestling conversation as well. She tackles them like no big deal. We think she's a fearless thinker, a relentless builder, and someone who makes the rest of us wonder, like, should we be doing more with our time? Please welcome Emily Smythe.
I'll pretend there's clapping. Thanks, guys, for the introduction.
Now you can introduce yourself.
As you guys know, my name is Emily Smythe. Fun fact, all my friends call me EJ Slice. That was my self-given rap name in the 8th grade that stuck. So now I'm in my 30s and people are still calling me EJ or Slice. Feel free to call me that as well. I am the EMR and Technology Systems Manager at Dent Neurologic Institute. I'll give the boring, brief background. Dent is the largest private outpatient neurology practice in the country. We see roughly 1,300 patients a day, 100 providers, 500 plus staff. Yeah, so I actually got my start at Dent fresh out of college. I got a job as a medical assistant, so rooming patients, taking vitals. And I thought in my naivete that I was just going to work there for a year, maybe go to grad school for something. I had no idea. I think I was more interested in beer tents back then than really thinking about my future. And actually now 10 years later, I've been through many departments. I was a medical secretary. I worked in revenue cycle. Then I started managing the EMR team. And I'm all over the place now in clinical operations. And now I'm kind of in the space where I, again, manage the EMR team. And I also drive all of our technological implementation projects. So I had the wonderful opportunity to onboard Luma and some of the Luma products. And that's probably why I'm here years later.
So, Emily, real quick, just for the audience, what is neurological practice today? How's it changed? I mean, that's a big term.
Yes.
So maybe unpack that for everybody.
Yeah. So specifically to Dent, across the country, neurology is one of the specialties that most suffers from provider burnout, as well as access issues. For example, I think the average neurologist right now, they're waiting almost 7 months to get in for a consultation appointment. It's very nuanced as well. At Dent, because we have 100 plus providers, we are able to subspecialize. So we don't have 30 neurologists that see every neurologic condition. So we have whole floors dedicated to dizziness and balance. The 6th floor might be headache. The 3rd floor might be, just where we do our EEG and EMG testing. A lot of these staff workflows are becoming increasingly more complex. We're trying to get patients in, but then we know things come up and patients cancel. So really trying to maintain Dent as being the #1 neurologic center in the country. We call ourselves like a one-stop shop. For example, if somebody comes into Dent, we want them to see their provider. And then if an MRI is ordered, blood work ordered, EEG is ordered, we want them to have all of those tests done by Dent, read by our physicians in the same building. So that's like our goal for our model, and it's worked very well for us. We're really just trying to increase like patient convenience. Every healthcare organization has really struggled with managing phone systems, communication. How are we contacting patients in between appointments and making sure they're on the right track for we call it their patient care journey. That's our goal for Dent. Really try to pride ourselves in being progressive and lead a lot of these initiatives to improving patient access.
That hits the nail on the head. I feel like continuity of care often gets broken when you're going to see specialty. Making sure just like every provider within your care journey is included and like a part of your journey, and making sure all that information is going out across. So I feel like it's very cool that your way forward is like trying to get everything done in one building. The patient doesn't have to be confused and they can get all their care in one place. I really like that.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy like how much information we need prior to even seeing a patient.
Yeah.
It's like when they call the call center and make their appointment, it's like we have such strict like insurance rules and regulations. We need to make sure everything on file is correct. Then we need to make sure we have all the records from all of their physicians. Now we need to make sure that, they're getting their appointment reminders. They know where to go. They're filling out all their forms. Like everything needs to happen so perfectly before the patient even comes in for a successful visit.
Can we talk about one of your like very complicated scheduling workflows, given that you mentioned everything needs a prior auth these days? I think even when we were setting up things in your account, you mentioned like there could be $30,000 infusion tests. Like we're not going to automate things like that. Can you walk through the complexities of your
Yes.
scheduling?
Pretty much everything in neurology needs a prior authorization. We do a ton of ancillary testing, EEGs, EMGs, home sleep studies, in-lab sleep studies, imaging, like the costs, and infusion. Infusion is unique too because when you bring in a patient for an infusion appointment, we've already it's called buy and bill. We've purchased the drug to infuse for them. If we turn out we don't have that authorization and we infuse the patient with that drug, it's not like we can go in that patient's body and pull out the drug. Like we are in we're in the negative for that amount that we paid for. And I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars for one patient. So it's really like high risk to just let patients self-schedule for some of these appointments. Again, we need to make sure we have an authorization. I think a lot of people in the beginning, when they think of self-scheduling, they just think, well, it can't work because it won't work for all services. Like we can't have imaging patients just put themselves on our schedule. Like that's going to be a nightmare. So I think what I try to come up with is, okay, we might not be able to have just a self-scheduling link where a prospective patient clicks on our website and I want an MRI. Like obviously they need a script, they need the insurance off, everything has to be perfect. But how can we at least minimize the amount that the staff is doing? How can we make their job easier, help them get through some of those like rote tasks a little easier? So one of the complicated workflows that we do for scheduling is we don't publish a self-scheduling link for those services on our website. What actually happens is, for example, the script for imaging might get faxed over to us. It goes into a bucket where an auth specialist works it. And then once that person determines, okay, yep, we take this patient's insurance, the script is valid, and we got authorization, they're not picking up the phone to call. I actually created a self-scheduling link that only shows availabilities for those like pre-approved visit types for that patient. So for example, we know that some insurances were like gold carded with them where, okay, we know they don't need an authorization. We can let them schedule wherever because it's low risk. They can just get on the schedule. So we actually have like message templates in Luma under the chat hub where it could be like MRI approved, no auth needed. And it has, like a blanket statement, but it also has that form link that just shows the MRI openings. So what we're doing is we're just like quickly boop, 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 sending them out to patients to self-schedule. We have seen like such success just for sleep studies for that. So for home sleep studies, we need authorization, but our prior auth specialists and our scheduler, they had a huge backlog of patients just waiting to be called to schedule their appointment. The phone tag just has to stop. I'm a millennial. I don't like to answer my phone. I would much rather get a text and just have the link available to just schedule whenever I want. It might not even be in that moment. It could be like, oh, I'll do this in 10 minutes and I'll get back to it. So I think it's giving the patients those like self-service options as well, but it's still reducing all the time spent on the phone. If I could, I would just want just the phone system to be for really complex like triage cases, not for scheduling. I think that's, we're in 2025 now. We gotta get rid of some of those processes.
Question. Angie kind of took us to, I'd say like an MBA course of scheduling. what might you say to folks that are used to using a automated text reminder system that has not embraced or innovated the way of thinking of trying to embrace workflows? And so maybe the first question I'd ask you is, what is a workflow? And how did you come up with the thought that these various if then else scenarios could be automated? Where and when did that moment hit you?
Yeah, whenever I'm trying to think of workflows, I think that especially when it comes to tech implementation, people make the mistake of, they look at a product like, okay, how can this product work for me? You have to almost think backwards. You have to think like, what is my end result? What is my end result? What is my ideal state? And so in my head, I'm like, my ideal state is to let imaging patients be able to schedule. That's what I want to get to. And then you think, how do I get there? And how tech or how this product can help you get there? How can we just reduce barriers? And how can we just use this product on the back end to assist that workflow? So for me, ideal state is I want approved home sleep study patients to be able to click a link that they get texted and just self-schedule, put themselves on the schedule. Okay, let's work backwards. How do I get there? What is the current process? How can we reduce the steps to get to that ideal state? So I always examine like the current workflow and I'm like, okay, what can we like take out of this? What can we replace with technology to make it simpler? So for that, it was instead of picking up the phone to call patients and play phone tag or, not be able to leave a voicemail and, and wait for them to call one person back. It's like, well, why don't we create a scheduling link? Okay, how can I make that scheduling link work for just sleep study patients? And in Luma's case, it is really nice. It's customizable where you could create a form link for scheduling and only allow certain availabilities by visit type, by provider, by facility to be shown to the patient. So I was like, okay, that takes out the phone call completely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the key is like really thinking backwards. Think of your ideal state. And then another thing too for the workflow is there has to be some sort of give and take with the product as well. So for example, for like the practice side, yeah, you may have to tweak your normal workflows, what you're currently doing just a little bit to accommodate how the product works. But if you look at the end result, it's like, okay, we got through our backlog of patients needing to be scheduled for home sleep studies in like a week.
You mentioned provider burnout and provider time spent doing tasks that are not in the service of why they became a provider, patients having to wait a really long time. How has what you just described and the more advanced workflow that Angie asked you to speak to, how is that embraced by the providers? Because we hear really commonly that, oh, well, we don't have scheduling templates set up. Mm-hmm. We don't have the buy-in of a physician practice that we've maybe acquired. You'll hear a lot of what would feel to us like inertia. How have you been able to get over that? And using the who term, who first really responded favorably where you said, holy shit, this is the way?
Yeah.
Maybe take us to that moment.
Man, I think I could talk forever about this. So we're lucky because at Dent, we call them like physician champions. There's always going to be providers that, they might not even have the bandwidth to try new workflows. They might not even have it. So we always say like, let's start small and build trust in the process of innovation and change. So we'll pick a couple of providers that like, yeah, I do want to try this. And it's almost like I don't want to say what's another, like not bullying, but physicians get almost like jealous because they see Dr. So-and-so is able to implement self-scheduling and, their schedules are full every day. Like maybe I should give that a try. So I think it's a little bit of peer pressure there. Yeah. And honestly, at the end of the day, providers, they don't care about how things are getting done. They just want it to get done. They just care that their patients are showing up on time for their appointment. They've filled out everything they need to. Everything is scheduled in the correct time slots. At the end of the day, they don't need to know what's working in the background. They're results driven. So I think building some of that trust with leadership, especially the physician leaders, showing them the results and like kind of, Angie, I feel like you've said, like, give them like a small piece of the pie first. You don't have to give them everything at first. But for us, a big thing was like, hey, the first thing we did was we implemented the omni-channel retries for appointment reminders. So with our EHR vendor, it would try a message, it might text there might be a landline in the cell field. So it might try to text the patient the appointment reminder. Well, it's a landline, so it failed. The patient never got the appointment reminder. Okay, so we implemented Luma appointment reminders that kind of like keeps trying. It'll try to text. If that fails, it'll call. And just because of that small change, they didn't even know it was happening. They didn't have to do anything for it. We saw an immediate 2% decrease in our no-show rate. So just that small bit of them showing like, hey, we just implemented this small change in appointment reminders, and now we have a 2% lower no-show rate. Can we maybe try more products? So it's just building trust small over time with like those simple workflows.
Yeah. Angie, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I feel like Emily's making this sound so easy, but I can't imagine how many layers you have to get through of buy-in just to even start this small little tiny slice of this pie. Honestly, like even patients, like getting patients used to this, that's a big thing that comes up. Do patients even like text messaging? That was so 10 years ago, but we still run into this every now and then. Or like my patients are an older population. They won't be able to schedule online. And then it's like the admin staff that are scheduling regularly. Like how do you convince them? You have to now use this new platform. You're going to send messages this way. There's so many layers. How do you manage each different layer of that to get things moving?
Yeah, honestly, it is like the project manager in me, but I think it's really important. Involve your stakeholder. I know that's a buzzword and this is not necessarily a buzzword, but it is true. Involve your stakeholders in every step of the process. It is a little bit like human psychology. Like, for example, if you're rolling out contactless check-in, make sure your registration manager is on board and collaborating every step of the way. Like, they're naturally going to be bought in more when they feel like they have some ownership of the results as well. It's not me, some project manager, coming in and telling them, oh, your department's not being run correctly and this is how we're going to change it. It's, hey, let's collaborate together and try to like do these small tweaks with your input and expertise. And I feel like people like naturally buy in a little more to that if you involve them every step of the way.
Special skills, like literally making it sound so easy.
Well, good thing that I'm just so personable. Don't ask my Twitter followers that.
Oh, your burner.
Yeah, my burner account.
That's what we need. We need you to screen share some of the arguments.
Commercial break?
Yeah.
Who's paying for this? We have to give them the airtime.
We are.
This episode is brought to you by Luma Health. Luma's Fax Transform gives you a streamlined way to integrate paper orders or fax information into your EHR workflows, ensuring that the right orders are placed and the appointments are scheduled. It's all automated too, so as docs are being automatically written into ECW or Epic or Meditex Expanse or Athena 1 and attached to your patients, your staff can say, "Look, Ma, no hands."
So I have a question just around where we had left off, Emily. In my life, it feels oftentimes trying to get specialists and subspecialists is like you're juggling tennis balls and glass balls, okay? Because in some situations, the timeliness of a visit and the confidence that you can receive by having somebody who not only has that level of expertise, but has the desire and drive to continue to innovate. And so my question for you is, with the number of subspecialists that you receive, and you talked about prior auth, you're already doing such innovative concepts with trying to interoperate between SMS and your clinics. With the advent of other channels that AI can help bring in to communicate with patients. How did you think about, like, where did the light bulb moment go off in your head where you said, hey, I understand this tennis ball, glass ball thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, there are appointments that are really timely and important that are like a glass ball. So if the patient, like you mentioned, an infusion where from the clinic side of things is many, many thousands of dollars. And then there's ones that are a tennis ball where, hey, if something was to happen, that appointment could bounce back up and probably very easily to be filled. But I know that the two areas of innovation that seem to have bubbled up around this concept of workflows is this concept of how do you catch a referral coming in? What do you do with it? And then in the journey of the workflow, back to your thoughtfulness of, well, hey, what if we message this? Is there a way to leverage agentic conversational AI that benefits certain types of those specialties? How do you think about that? How have you identified that? And maybe just share a few use cases.
Yeah. So first of all, in healthcare, everybody is dealing with either backlogs or just insane backlogs of work, patients to be called, faxes to be filed. It's come to a point where it's so unmanageable. I think the light bulb actually came up in my head, not even just me sitting and like sipping my coffee and like, how can we be better? I feel like there's a sense of urgency in healthcare where you have no choice but to focus on things that are the highest impact. So for example, I've been working with Angie on LumaFax, and it's like, okay, we know that, we have a backlog of faxes and we struggle to even keep up with the amount of incoming faxes, but we know that there's really important stuff in those faxes. Can we use, how can we speed up this process? Not only filing it, but taking it like a step further. Like, it's one thing for a fax to be filed in a chart. And I was thinking about this as, Angie and I are working through, okay, what happens though when you are able to keep up with all those faxes being filed in a day? We get thousands of faxes a day. So then we think about, okay, now are we going to need extra manpower to even read those faxes that are now filed and take action on it? So I think the thought of, let's take it a step further. Yes, let's automate these manual rote processes, but also let's take it a step further. Can AI actually start recognize this is a referral? Okay, can I actually reach out to the patients and get them on the schedule?
Mm-hmm.
That's the next evolution of using technology to reduce these manual efforts that, you could train, I hate to say it, you could train a monkey to do. And a lot of these people that are in these positions of filing faxes, their skill sets could be used for much more important, complex things. Actually doing these complex prior auths, doing direct patient contact. So that was kind of like the light bulb is, okay, yeah, we got it now. We got it now. We're getting patients on the schedule. We're filing these faxes. How can we take it a step further, and how can we use AI to get there? And to me, it was the natural evolution. Again, sense of urgency, probably, because we never want to just keep, I hate to say, I don't want to say, hire more staff, because sometimes we need to, but sometimes these are positions where they're high turnover anyway, where we're struggling to keep people in these seats, probably because, they don't feel that their work is that meaningful to file these faxes. They might not understand that, hey, if I stop doing my job today and I stop filing these faxes, the downstream effects of it could be this patient doesn't get their medication in time because the authorization didn't get to the provider, the authorization request or the refill request. So I think it's bridging that gap that maybe the staff don't, they might not connect the dots, and it's letting them actually have more meaningful interaction with the patient. So really, again, it's just taking it a step further and using AI to further automate some of those rote processes.
Because there's so much noise around AI in general that's both hope, maybe overconfidence, in some cases, real outcome. How do you think about the economics of what's a good business decision? And then how do you go about getting funding to explain to somebody, hey, because as you said, have been compressed. All the business indices indicate that that we're in a cycle where just delivering healthcare will continue to remain. You got to be a great steward of your business. So how do you think about here's what is going to benefit the business, and then how would you go about getting the funding to be able to think that through? Because I think that's a common question for a lot of folks that are in leadership positions like you.
Yeah. So the easy answer to that is, for example, when you're implementing a product, you have to look at how much you're already spending. And some of that are like intangibles, but like how what is your budget to hire 5 full-time staff to work your fax inbox with benefits? And then you have to think about some of the intangibles, like, okay, what's the cost of turnover when that person leaves? And then we have to hire somebody new to get them trained. And then also you have to be able to quantify some of the other intangibles. Like, what is the downstream economic impact for us if we are letting referrals in our fax backlog pile up? Like, what does that look like? How much money are we leaving on the table? How much revenue? Because we're not, filing our faxes, for example, and we're not getting these on the schedule. What is the downstream economic impact of not giving our patients these self-scheduling options for new patients? And our phone systems are blowing up. Like, are we, you have to really challenge your leadership too. It may not be easy to quantify all the time, but it's like, are we leaving money on the table? Are we not giving our patients the best care because we're not doing these things? What is the cost of, us not doing a prior authorization for a medication where you might lose that patient, or that patient may end up in the hospital. So I think you have to get really good at thinking about some of those like soft things as opposed to those like hard metrics.
Perfect transition, Angie.
Yeah, I feel like we're at time. We're closing off. We like to finish off with some rapid fire questions for Emily. So let's just go quickly. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, 5 cups a day.
Seriously?
No, like 2.
Oh my
I
God.
love coffee though.
I was about to say, you're impressive.
Skiing or fishing?
Skiing.
Favorite book?
Dune.
Fascinating.
I'm a big Dune person.
We learned so much in this rapid fire. Most used app on your phone?
Twitter.
Lastly, if you weren't in healthcare, what would you be doing?
A podcast host? I'm kidding. I would probably be like an event planner. I love a good party.
Very fun. Very fun. Wow, I learned more from these last 5 questions. I need to ask you more of them in our downtime.
Emily, thank you so much for giving us your time and your expertise and making this fun for the audience and tolerating Angie. It's tough.
I know she wouldn't shut up. It was getting to be a bit much.
It's really tough. I mean, we tried muting her, but she literally can persevere through anything and overcome any. That's why what a
backhanded compliment. That was.
I have one more thing though. I wanted to show everybody.
Yes, she's a custom actions girl.
It's my fanny pack. I'm a custom actions girl. You have to like flip that around, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to you're going to become the workflow queen.
Yes,
that's
the next evolution for me.
Exactly. We'll see how committed you are when we give you a tattoo.
I'll do it.
Leaders like you that figure out this intersection, that's what workflows really is always intended to be. You joke about custom actions, but it really is the difference in so many smiles from the provider, the delivery system, and the patient is in the center of that is a custom action. It's not an out of the box rote solution. And I think you do it better than anybody. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That was fun. So I could talk for hours, as you can tell.
Yeah, we could keep. I feel like we could have gone another hour.
On. What? Like this is a. We'll have you back on.
Yeah.
And then we'll explore just a small subset of something. It'll be.
I would love that. I know I could talk about workflows like all day. Thanks, guys. That was so fun.
Okay, y'all.
Thank
Well,
you.
Unjargoned is officially done.
That's all for today.
Perfect. Nailed it.